Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, Jennifer and I are going to talk about fear. Fear in a pretty broad sense, kind of starting out. And then basically we're just going to funnel down from there. Like fear in relation to politics and a lot of the, fuckery that's going on in the world right now, as far as laws against women's rights, laws against people of color, laws against various sections of society. And then we'll funnel down even more and talk about fear on a personal level. And normally I'm the one who does all the research and I'm the nerdy one on the show. The research, like things that I was finding just didn't feel pertinent to me for some reason, or to what I imagined today's conversation was going to be about. I'm fearful of today's conversation because I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
I got your back, partner.
Yeah. Thank you, partner. You're the best.
My research generally entails me searching through YouTube, watching as many YouTube videos as we can. That's how I tend to do my research. So right. I think it's funny that you said that, because here are the titles on YouTube related to fear. How to overcome fear. Why you should define your fears. Fear is an illusion. Troubled by fear? Just change your channel. How to fight fear. Fear is a liar. Secret to kill fear. It seems as almost as a culture, we have a fear of fear because no one wants to talk about what is fear. They just want to tell us all these ways to get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I thought that was hysterical that you started with that, because I found the same thing. I kept thinking, this isn't really defining fear for us. This is just like this old world paradigm of not feeling our emotions and shoving them down.
Yes. That totally makes sense. We aren't talking about it. We aren't getting into any nitty gritty. We're just like, just kill it, shove it down, get rid of it. Who needs it?
Yeah.
That's what everything points to. Just shove it down.
I didn't see a single YouTube video that said, let's talk about fear, where it comes from, how to define it. It was all about how do you get rid of it.
Yeah,
even
exactly.
Like the Buddhist monks were talking about fear. It's an illusion. Push it out of your mind and go to the oasis. No, not quite like that, but you get the general idea. It was all about like this extreme positivity message. Like, don't feel your fear, overcome it, and pretend like it doesn't exist, and fake it till you make it, and push yourself. But to me, I think, okay, well, we've been in therapy and we've been working on this, Raquel. If we just push that emotion of fear down, what does that do to us?
Well, it certainly doesn't do us any good. It just shows up in other ways. I don't think it does. If we don't learn how to cope with it, then it's just going to come up in other ways. Like, I know for me, a lot of times fear shows up as anger.
Bingo.
I will be scared shitless about something, and I will come across like I am mad at the world. If somebody just talks to me and asks me the right questions in the right way, then I'll basically tell them I'm scared out of my mind. I am scared out of my mind. And the only way that I know, or not the only way, the sort of emotional, visceral reaction that I have to fear shows up as anger.
Okay, so I did see a lot of that when I was on YouTube. And I was also, I don't know if you noticed this, but you and I picked this topic a while ago. And even when I set out the invite, I called it anger.
Yep.
And I kept thinking in my head, the episode coming up on anger, 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 anger. Like I couldn't get that out of my mind also. And then I thought, oh, that's because fear manifests as anger for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And fear is below it. And just like you said, you have to be asked all the right questions, probably by your therapist, because I don't know very many people who are skilled at asking those questions.
Yeah.
When you're so angry, most of the time for me, I don't know, and you said for you, I don't know if all people follow, but most of the time when you dig deeper, it's actually about fear. So this is where I think it gets political because, okay, and you can say this is true of the left and the right.
Right.
When we have an issue that we get so angry about, right?
Yeah.
So I'll pick one. I'll pick the Republicans so angry about the people crossing the border because this is one of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
And they're screaming and they're angry and they're upset. If we take a minute to dissect that and think about it, it's not really anger. Is it fear? Do they have fear? And then what is the fear?
I think you're right. I think there is fear because it isn't just people coming across the border. Because if they were white people coming across the border, say if it were our northern border and Canadians were just like, hey, we're going to go live in the US for a while, nobody would have, or maybe not nobody, somebody might have something to say. But I think people there, the fear wouldn't be there because guess what? Most people are assuming, oh, most of the Canadians are going to be white. They're going to be fine. They're just like us. Come on in. You look just like me. But, well, not me, but you know what I mean. But with people coming across our southern border is with Mexico. So there's all these brown people coming across the southern border. So guess what? There's all these brown people. We don't understand these people. They aren't like us. Look, they're a different color than us. We don't understand. We don't understand them, so we are afraid of them.
Is it because of language?
I don't think it's just a language. Basically, this history from time immemorial of having someone to look down on. And you look down on people who don't look like you, people who aren't like you. You raise yourself up by putting other people down.
But is it look down or is it fear?
Having people look down on somebody else uses that fear in a way that helps further that cause of putting those people down, raising yourself up. If you fear somebody, what you aren't gonna work to raise them up because you're afraid of them. They're coming for your jobs. They're coming for your women. They're coming for your money. They're coming for your land. There's all of this.
There's not enough to go around.
Exactly.
Fear of losing something.
Yeah, utilizing that fear of lack, that there's not enough to go around, scarcity. There's fear of somebody who's different from you.
So then, Raquel, does fear drive our political situation in the United States? Because if you look at it,
oh God, I think it does.
It appears that we are kind of a fear-driven society. Yeah. When we think about, remember a couple episodes ago, we talked about being a single issue voter. Mm-hmm. If that is our single issue, is it because of fear?
I think so. But it's not just the US. It's not like everybody else is great and we suck. Other countries go through the same thing. I think fear is a tool that is used in conjunction with power. And it's a tool to help certain people hold on to power and to maybe even gain that power in the first place.
But some of these people, when they're out there, maybe not so much the politicians, but maybe they start out with kind of a good idealistic heart and they want to promote a cause and they start with all this fantastic ambition and passion, but they're angry and they're upset. It's rooted in fear, but they think that they think they're motivating with it, or maybe they don't even realize they're driven by that fear.
I would hope that some people, maybe that's a weird way to put it, but
Okay, like the Women's
I
March,
don't
for
know.
example.
Yeah.
A bunch of us put on our pussy hats and drove ourselves to DC, and we got down to the march.
Or in our
And
own cities. I mean, I
or
participated in a women's march here in Atlanta.
yep, or in our own cities. But there was a lot of anger. There was a
Right.
lot of anger that I saw.
Yes.
And that anger, I believe, was driven by fear. Fear that, oh my
Absolutely.
gosh, this man is now our president and he doesn't seem to care about women. What about women's rights? We're all very scared. We didn't have any power. We weren't trying to hold the
No,
power.
but we do have a certain element or a certain semblance of power in that, at least for now, some of us still have power over our own autonomy. That's where the fear comes from, is that we're afraid of losing it, which, damn it, women are losing it. Look at Texas. Look at Florida. Look at things that are happening here in Georgia. I mean, in various other states, it's happening now. Our rights are being diluted and outright taken away now.
But when you went to that march and you were doing whatever chants and you were
Mm-hmm.
marching and you were
Mm-hmm.
feeling the, I don't know, the kind of like camaraderie and the high of it and being in a big group of women, were
Yeah.
you feeling angry?
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
know at that time the root of the anger was fear?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't.
I
I did
did.
not know that.
I did, because I think I've always been of the mindset that certain rights that have been afforded to us, meaning us who are not white, rich landowners, that those rights could be taken away. And it's not just, you know, women's right to vote, civil rights, and, people of color having the right to vote, people under a certain age having the right to vote, all of these things. I have always felt that if we don't utilize these rights, quote unquote, that have been given to us, quote unquote, that we will lose them. Because
Mm,
all people have to do, the people in power, all they have to do is go, well, they aren't using them. We'll just take it away. I mean, you see it here in Georgia with the voter rules. Oh, they
hmm
haven't voted. They haven't voted in like 3 elections. Who cares? They don't need it. They don't want it. They haven't utilized that in 3 elections. Who cares? We'll just take it. They won't even notice. So people were purged from the voter rolls. I've been saying this, and sure, many people thought I was nuts. I mean, I remember having conversations about this in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Saying to people, once we are old enough to vote, we have to continue voting. Because I remember the very first time that I was old enough to vote and other people were old enough to vote, I remember saying to people, well, you're going to vote, right? You're going to vote. And they're like, well, and I'm like, what do you mean? Wait, people can take this vote away from us. This isn't guaranteed to us forever and ever. Amen. We have to utilize this. I've always known that there was a level of fear there and there was a level of anger, because it was so hard to get these rights in the first place. Now people are trying to protect them and get them back and all this, but there's a certain voice in society that has been saying for decades that these rights that we have been afforded, that we have fought for so long, have to be continually protected.
Yeah.
And I believe there was a case in, I believe it was 2013, when Eric Holder, the former U.S. Attorney General, there was a Voting Rights Act that was up for some discussion or rejuvenation or whatever. I'm getting all the wrong language here. There was a certain segment of it that needed to be upheld, and it was voted down because people said Oh, I think it was a Supreme Court case, and I'll have to look it up. But people said, oh, we don't need that anymore. We don't need to protect these civil rights. Look, nobody's doing bad things anymore as far as voting rights are concerned. Things are great. And Eric Holder actually said, you are removing the teeth from this ruling. You are taking the teeth out of this particular law. The only reason that bad things have not been happening is because this rule exists and because this segment is still there. They took it out. Guess what? Right after that, people started getting purged from voting rolls.
Oof.
Attacks on voting rights started happening. There are people who have been saying all along that things have to continue to be fought for. There have been people in the abortion rights camp who have been saying, we have to continue to protect this. This will get whittled away and it will be taken away. And people were like, oh, poo, you're just being alarmist. It wasn't until maybe fairly recently that people started to see, oh shit, they were right. They weren't just being crazy alarmist feminazis,
Well, that's a good word, alarmist, because there is so much in the media that's like, well, I see it in the grocery store all the time. They'll get on the media and they'll be like, this huge snowstorm is going to hit Michigan. And all these people come in and they shop like they're going to be stranded for 2.5 months.
Yep.
So there is an alarmist tone to our media that is meant to elicit a certain amount of fear. Don't you think maybe in some regards, how do you know? Some of the fear is healthy, some of the fear is not healthy. If you look back about voting rights or abortion rights or some of the other things that we care about, is a little bit of fear healthy?
Well, yeah, I think a little bit of fear is healthy. I mean, going back, thinking of, caveman days, your fear told you to run to get out of the way of the lion that was coming to rip you in half,
Good segue. Perfect. Because, as you know, we like our Brene Brown book, Atlas of the Heart. So she says, this is her definition of fear. Fear arises when we need to respond quickly to physical or psychological danger that is present and imminent. Like you were saying, what was that, a tiger or something?
Some kind of big animal that could chomp us in half.
Because fear is a rapid fire emotion, the psychological reaction can sometimes occur before we even realize that we were afraid. The typical response are fight, flight, or freeze. In the research, you can find many lists of what elicits fear in us. The items range from rodents to snakes to the inability to see our surroundings to observing our children in peril. However, no matter how much the list varies, one item on every list I've seen, the fear of social rejection. We can never forget that we experience social pain and physical pain in the same part of our brains, and the potential exposure to either of the pain drives our fear. Now, you told me before this that brought up a visceral reaction in you. How come? And did it do that again?
Oh, it did. It did, because I think, and maybe I'm defining fear incorrectly or just in a vastly different way than Brene Brown. I think there's more to fear than an immediate reaction or an immediate sense of something, because I think there's also fear of a certain outcome.
But maybe that's anxiety.
Maybe my definition of fear is different because I deal with anxiety and depression. So maybe I'm seeing fear through a different filter than Brene Brown.
Mm-hmm. According to her book, they're all in the same group of emotions.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Anxiety and fear are very closely related. They're very closely related to stress. And I think her definition is that, yes, the tiger is about to eat you. You have fear. You have to run. Right. And then your definition is more like fear of the future, like what could happen, what could happen to me tomorrow, what could.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of fear of the future.
Well, you know what Eckhart Tolle would say to that, and he is one of the
Okay.
people that I watched today on YouTube around fear. He would say that there is only one moment, and that's the present moment. And if you stay in the present, there is no fear of the future, because the future never exists. There is only the now. But I've tried to do it. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible for
As
me,
you're saying it, I'm like, I get that intellectually. I get it. My body doesn't react that way. And emotionally, I'm like, sorry, Eckhart, I'm not in the same. I'm not in the same place he is.
He's a spiritual master, right? We're not
Yeah,
spiritual masters here, right?
I'm not even close.
It is interesting though, because I think when you proposed this topic, I did a little writing in my journal and I thought, what are your biggest fears? And for me, it was the same kind of stuff that you're talking about. I was thinking, I don't like snakes, but I don't think I'm really afraid of them anymore. And spiders, I'm not really afraid of anymore.
Yeah.
But when I think about, okay, well, there are some tangible fears. There is, like, for me, there's fear of abandonment, but isn't that in the future also? And then there's, well, hell, let's be real. There's fear of commitment, fear of longevity. My biggest fear is something happens to one of my children. So, but I think all of those things are what you're describing. I don't have any fear of tigers at the moment because there's no imminent tiger. What's imminent for us in modern day world? What's imminent?
See, I feel like so many things are imminent.
Like
loss of a job or loss of a home. And shit, maybe I'm like giving away way too much. And this is this is too much of a look inside my head. But for me, and I think for a lot of people, those are very imminent fears. Because, we've all heard the statistic about the majority of people are $200 away. Yeah, one paycheck away from a disaster, or $200 away from a disaster. Yeah,
I don't have those as imminent fears.
See, but
you do.
I do.
And that's legit, Raquel. That's legit. I think a lot of people do as an imminent fear.
Yeah.
I can't tell you why I don't. I mean, okay, I can. Again, it'll go back to, we've talked about this before. I think it goes back to privilege in a way. I remember when I first got my divorce, and I worried about paying my mortgage, etc. And my dad just casually said, if anything ever happens, you and the kids are always welcome to come here. And those kind of things that they planted in my subconscious.
Yeah.
It's that we've talked about it. It's a social net. I had a social net. And the social net allows me to not be as fearful.
Right. I think it's a faith too, which I know that's a weird word to use because neither of us are very, or at all religious.
Yeah.
But it's a trust. Trust is probably a better word. There's a trust that you have that things will work out okay, that you won't end up in your car. Right.
Yeah. So am I spiritual, Raquel? Am I a fake atheist?
No.
I think I'm a fake atheist. I think almost all my friends will tell you I am the biggest, loudest, fake mouthiest atheist there is. That I have some kind of spiritual knowing, but I refuse to believe in a white male God who sits on a throne.
But spiritual doesn't equal believing in some old white guy in the sky. I think spiritual is totally different. I mean, I've always considered myself to be spiritual, but not religious. Always.
Okay.
Always. Yeah. So
well, I like the word atheist.
Well, you know what? You use whatever you want.
Okay.
You're a grown ass woman. You can do what you want.
But people think I'm a fake ass atheist.
What do you care what other people think?
Good point.
and it's funny that we're talking about this because when I was preparing for the episode, I was thinking about, okay, well, what are the things that I'm afraid of? What are the things in my life or situations in my life where fear has held me back? As I'm going through my list, because I feel like I have a list, and I was thinking, I can't imagine that Jennifer has anything that she's held back by at all. I don't see you being held back by fear.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about like skiing by myself in the mountains, I got you. If we're talking about eating at a restaurant by myself, no problem.
Yeah.
We're talking about going for a job I want that I'm not qualified for. I will put in that application and call and harass you to hire me.
Right.
My fears are all rooted, other than like the thing with my kids, which I don't even want to talk about because I don't like that getting out into the universe in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
My fears are all related to fear of abandonment. So probably why I don't have a working long-term relationship at the moment. I think that I have skirted the issue in my life by dating a lot. Like I date a lot. Although recently I haven't been dating, but I date a lot. I go out. I've had several long-term relationships, but since my divorce, which was 16 years ago, wow, I have not really even come close to getting married.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I ever will.
Yeah.
Fear of abandonment, that will keep people from, all right, let's just talk about myself. Fear of abandonment has kept me from jumping into a relationship with both feet. So whereas you're right, I feel very confident that everything will work out, everything will be okay. I have that faith, or what was the other word you used?
Trust. Faith
or trust that will work out. That is in everything in my life except a relationship with a man. And I have been unable to have that same trust in that relationship.
Why do you think that is?
Oh my God, psychotherapist Raquel.
And you can just say, Raquel, shut the fuck up. I don't want to talk about it. I mean, that's totally fine.
No. I've been going to therapy, so I think I was even aware of this before therapy. Well, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but my mom was married 3 times. And my dad was married, sorry, Dad, either 4 or 5. I can't remember. And
so my mom was married multiple times too, but all before our dad.
There were a lot of adults that were in and out of my life. My parents split when I was 2.
Okay.
I don't have any recollection of living in a home with the 2 of them. I do have recollection of step parents that I loved and cared about that were there one day and then gone.
Yeah.
And then I had a brother and sister who both died relatively young. Yeah. Probably the most traumatic thing in my life was when my brother Randy died. I'm sure you knew Randy.
Vaguely. I didn't know him very well. I knew who he was, but I didn't know him very well.
Well, Randy was the closest person in my life because we were, what do they call it when you're born almost a year apart? When your mom has a
Irish
baby?
twins.
We were Irish twins. We were very close in age. We shared a lot of the same friends. Parents were divorced, so we went back and forth from home together. So we were with my mom at the same time, we were with my dad at the same time. I wouldn't say we always got along. We had lots of fights and lots of fun and lots of parties. And, he was the closest person in my life. And he died very young. He died, and it was devastating and tragic. I'm sure all of that together, if you want to roll it out on a carpet, that is my fear of intimacy and my fear of, what did I call it? Fear
abandonment.
Abandonment. I think I'm going to be abandoned.
Yeah.
I think, and roll in a divorce in there too.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
In there because that was pretty painful.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it all flip. I'm smiling. That was pretty painful.
Oh, no big deal.
I think it's interesting that you brought this up, that I seem fearless, because in certain aspects of my life I am.
Right.
But probably the thing that I would like more than any other thing is to be completely 100% vulnerable with another human being to show my true self completely 100%, which is, I'm kind of working on it with you.
Yeah.
And yet this fear holds me back from doing it.
And you know what? And I can, man, I can relate to that so much because me and my brother, our parents split up pretty much right after my brother was born. And my brother's 2.5 years younger than me. And our dad wasn't an everyday part of our lives at all. I mean, not even yearly. I don't think I ever, got a birthday card or a Christmas card or any of that kind of stuff for my dad. So, he really wasn't there at all. Yeah, when you're a little kid, you're like, what? You're supposed to love me. Where, what? And I'm the firstborn, right? And I'm the only girl. You see all these things where people are like, it's my first baby. And I'm like, well, yeah, that didn't resonate with my dad. I have some of that fear of abandonment stuff too. I mean, I probably have a whole set of luggage with that baggage, right? Probably fear of intimacy too. Because I do feel, and I have always felt like this, and I think I still feel like this, even at the ripe old age of 52. I'm always afraid that if people really get to know me, that they're not going to like me. And they're going to go, yeah, Raquel's not that great. We don't love her anymore. And then they're just going to walk away. You know what I mean? Or sometimes just in general, everyday life, it'll pop up in my head of, wow, it's a good thing people can't hear the judgy shit in my head, because if they did, they would think I'm awful, and no one would love me anymore. No one would be my friend, right? No one would,
Okay. Okay,
so that's my fear of intimacy thing.
No, I get it. But sometimes your friends say judgy shit. Do you still love them?
Well, yeah, but see, that just makes too much sense.
I think the hard part with the fear of intimacy is that is what we so desire, is for someone to really truly see us, acknowledge us. But yet there's that fear of abandonment, because if you take the time to really put yourself out there, to put your all into it, to show yourself, and things are going really well, and then 6 months later they change their mind and walk away.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, it's a dagger in the heart.
That's a dagger in the heart, because if you go to all that trouble to be intimate.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about sex.
Right. No, it's just letting somebody get to know me, like really me.
Really get to know you. Yes.
Yeah. I have gotten better about that. There is still that huge fear of people knew the thoughts that were going on in my head, or the judgy shit that I say in my head, that I thankfully have built a filter to not let actually come out of my mouth. I would not have any friends. I have that fear that no one would love me anymore. And I laugh as I'm saying it, but it's not funny.
We're both doing that today. We're deflecting. My thought is that I have a couple thoughts here.
Okay.
But my very first thought is, I think this comes back to self-love, because, and I've been trying to practice this. I really have lately. When I have this desire to have an external partner, instead of looking for an external partner, I'm asking myself, what is it that you are wanting right now? If it's, I want to be held, I'm trying to hold myself, believe it or not.
Right.
And I'm trying to soothe myself. And I'm trying to, you said it the other day, I don't know how many podcasts ago, but you said, you're listening to your inner child. I'm listening to myself. I'm believing myself. I'm trusting myself. So that's what I'm working on. I could be wrong, because I've never gotten here, but I feel like if both of us and lots of our listeners were to get to that point where they felt really secure in that self-love, then to show yourself 100%, that intimacy wouldn't be so hard, because if this other person abandoned you, you still have you, because you are never going to abandon you. And I think one of the problems that we've had in the past, or at least I've had in the past, is in order to please someone in my life, maybe it was my parents, maybe it was my brother and sister, maybe it was someone I dated, I abandoned myself in order to do so. So myself isn't trusting me all that much. I've got to rebuild that trust, find that relationship that I am seeking with myself first,
Yes.
And then I could connect that way with someone else.
Yes.
Holy shit, that seems like a lot of work.
It does. It does.
And then the second thing I'm thinking about these thoughts in your head, Raquel, first of all, I'm going to say they're probably not that bad because we all have them.
We do.
But second of all, if you are feeling judgment, who do you think you're really judging?
You mean, who are other people really judging?
No, you. You're in your head and you're feeling judgment. Who are you judging?
I will be honest. Sometimes I'm judging other people for sure. Yeah. And sometimes, yes, I'm judging me.
Yeah. And when you're judging other people, what are you doing?
Being an asshole?
No. No. Well, maybe a little, but you're judging yourself for judging other people. You said out loud was, if people heard me, they wouldn't love me anymore.
Yeah.
You're judging yourself for these judgments you have.
Wow. Yeah, that's very true. Damn, we're good at this whole therapy thing. But yeah, you're completely right. You are completely right. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm right. Those are just my
no,
thoughts.
But it makes sense. I'm judging myself for doing what everybody does. I'm judging myself for judging other people.
The other thing that Eckhart Tolle said in his 20-minute presentation on fear is that fear can be driven through our thought processes. So he said sometimes if you're in a spot of fear, you can ask yourself, what am I thinking that's driving that? Like, what repetitive thoughts am I having? So like for me, it could be, I think that if I truly show my true self to this person and I put all that effort and work and they walk away from me, I'm going to feel abandoned. Those are repetitive thoughts that I've had since childhood. Those thoughts become patterns, become beliefs. That's probably a belief that I hold, but I can change that belief by saying, no, because if that person walks away, I always have myself.
That's a very good way to look at it.
So Eckhart Tolle said, when you're sitting in fear, dissect your thought pattern that led you to there.
That's interesting.
There was something I wanted to read, but I don't remember why. So hopefully it's relevant.
Just go ahead and read it.
So I'm reading this book called The Wake Up, and it's closing the gap between good intentions and real change. It's by Michelle MiJung Kim. I hope I said MiJung right. This is about diversity and inclusion, and something that you and I talk a lot about, and about I've been saying for a while, well, if your intentions are good, shouldn't that mean something? And this is basically for me with the good intentions, but closing the gap so we can make real change.
Right.
Like, good intentions aren't enough.
Exactly. The saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
So that's why I got it, because I feel like we do a lot of like surface level talking and surface level change.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's really, I'm not going to say those things aren't worthwhile, because I do think that they have to happen, or some of them are nice changes, but I don't know that they really help how people feel and experience as a marginalized person.
Yeah, you need to go deeper for sure. And it's harder to go deeper. And because I've had some of these same thoughts. A lot of times I feel like we're just sort of up here. It's just this high level stuff and we really need to get deeper. But how do you do that? I mean, that's part of the quandary is, now what? Where do we go from here?
I underlined all of this. It's a pretty long paragraph. And I wrote in here, fear for the pod.
Good.
Because she started describing fear, and I thought, okay, this is good stuff. So this is what she said, and it's a little long. Fighting for social justice is often described as courageous, fearless, and inspiring. Yet feelings of fear, anxiety, shame, and inadequacy accompany nearly everyone I know who is trekking through the journey. Many of us desire to have good impacts, but sometimes even our best intentions can bring unintended consequences of harm. And this unpredictable potential, coupled with our terrifying fear of being called out, sometimes holds us back from taking any action at all, which in turn makes our dreaded fear of causing harm a reality through inaction. Maybe you've been called out before in a way that has scarred you forever. Maybe you're seeing other people get called out publicly in ways that make you squirm. Maybe you've never been called out and don't ever want to experience it. Or maybe you're like me, prone to anxiety and overthinking your every action, which my therapist has been witness to for years as she listens to me babble about my impending doom every week. But somehow she always manages to help me return to my center, reminding me, despite all of my irritating flaws and reprehensible mistakes, that I am still whole and worthy, and that while the fear of being called out is valid and human, it should not dictate my future actions or define me. Whatever the reason may be, in order to become effective change agents in this journey, we need to get intimately familiar with our fears and what they represent for us, and practice countering our fears with a great desire for change and accountability so that we can act while being fearful anyway.
Wow.
Now I remember why I underlined it. Because remember how you started out this podcast saying it was hard to find information about fear, and then I read all those titles about how people are saying get rid of your fear?
Right.
I don't think we can. I think fear is there and we have to act even in its presence.
Right.
That's what she just said.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, we've talked about that before. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Being brave, making change, whether that's political or personal or in relationships, you take the action anyway. You don't get rid of the fear. Problems arise, I think, when you feel that fear and you don't move. When you don't move forward. That fear just holds you back or keeps you in place for any number of reasons.
So how does, you asked me this, you said I seem fearless and fear doesn't hold me back. How does it hold you back?
Man, I think fear holds me back in any number of ways. Situations where I can point to and say for sure, yes, fear has held me back. Professionally, that whole thing of applying for jobs that, like, there's a study that shows that men will apply for jobs that they're only, say, 70% qualified for. But a woman will wait until she's 100% qualified before she'll apply for it.
Not me. That's one thing I've never been afraid of.
Right. And I wish I had that, because I will go through phases where I just won't even apply. Or I'll just apply to, like, well, I can do that job. I mean, I know I'm thoroughly overqualified for it, but I can do that one.
But you're going to get bored.
Well, yeah.
I want to do the job that I only think I can do.
Right. But fear is a very sneaky bastard. I will build shit up in my head and I'll put fear there and I'll just, hey, fear, why don't you get on in there and just, like, paint this picture? Here's this big ass brush. Paint this picture for me. And I'm just going to sit back and let you take over. Not that I do that intentionally, but that's kind of the way that it's happened. So yeah, professionally, yes, I'm sure the fact that I am where I am as opposed to where I thought I would be, totally fear-based. For instance, many moons ago, like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I found out about health coaching. And I thought, oh my God, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to be some sort of health coach. I got all excited about it. And I told my friends, and they were like, well, what are you going to do with that? Just like totally talking it down. And I was like, fine. Like the balloon that the air goes out, it was like, and I was like, okay. And so I didn't think about it, or I didn't pursue it for years. And then
because of something your friend said?
Because of fear of, well, what are people going to think? People are going to think I'm like some like loopy, hippy dippy weirdo, whatever.
I want them to think that of me.
Well, I mean, yeah, now I don't care. Well, I guess I do still care a bit, but I just didn't pursue it for years, even though it like stayed there just in the back of my head, you know, like, don't forget about me, don't forget about me. Right before I turned 50, I thought, you know what? I don't want to make decisions based out of fear anymore. So I immediately applied to a program, became certified, had some clients, did the whole thing, then COVID hit. I still feel like there's fear holding me back.
Let's dissect this fear.
Okay.
You've got the certification.
Yes.
You know what you're doing.
Yes.
You have a couple of clients.
Yes.
What is the fear telling you? Tell me what the fear is telling you.
That I'm not good enough, that
Okay.
I'm not going to get any more clients.
Okay, stop right there for a second.
Okay.
We're going to get further. I'm not good enough. Is that true?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
That's not true.
What's the other one? I can't get more clients?
That, you know, what if I don't get any more clients?
Okay, what if you don't?
Then I'm not going to make any money. And money's key. It is key. And I hate to say that, but yeah, I'm sorry.
I agree.
Money
You have to have clients. You have to have clients, but...
And then I'm not helping anybody.
All right, but how realistic is it that you can't get more clients?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe pretty. Okay, and now literally I can feel myself like going into like little 6-year-old Raquel going, I don't know.
I don't know.
Crawling into my hole.
Me these questions.
Crawling into my little hole.
All right, this didn't go as I planned. We were going to debunk all your fears.
No.
There are legitimate fears for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so here's how the fear trail goes. I'm afraid, oh my God, I won't get any clients. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll get some clients. But then what if my clients don't like me? Then
they don't have to like you for you to be their coach and be effective. I don't very much like my therapist, but she's a damn good therapist. I want to smack her after this meeting I had with her this week. I don't exactly like her.
That's a good point. Okay.
It's not about like, it's about, did you deliver the program that you said you would deliver? Have you clearly defined your program?
The one that I have been using, yes, it is clearly defined.
Then it doesn't matter if they like you, it's whether you can deliver that to your client or not.
Okay.
Can you deliver that program?
Yes, I can. And I have.
Okay, then.
But it all comes down to
fear.
It comes down to fear that I'm not good enough. Fear that
it's so weird the way our minds work. I want to understand more why, because I don't really have those kind of fears, because if I was ready to start my business, I would be like, well, what do I have to lose? I would think, okay, well, if it goes really well, I can quit my job. And then I think, but if it doesn't, I still have my job. Right. So it's like, what do I have to lose to launch this thing to the best of my ability?
Yeah, that makes sense.
My brain thinks, well, if I don't launch it now, then 2 years from now, I'm going to still be asking myself the same question. Why didn't I do this 2 years ago?
That's a really good way to look at it.
That's how my brain works on those kind of things.
I need to figure out how your brain works that way and how I can get my brain to work like your brain.
You know what? Well, not in all things, for sure. For in some things we need your brain, and in some things we need my brain. But I do think it's a fascinating study as to why different brains are wired different ways. Mm-hmm. It is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. And, honestly, when I'm being really, really cheeky about it, then I just blame it all on my parents.
Yeah, I like to do that too.
I blame it on my dad.
But I will say this. As a mom, I have 2 different children that were born to me. And then I have 2 children that were my sisters that I inherited when they were much older. All 4 of them are completely different personalities.
Right.
And granted, you're not raised the same way, even if you're raised by the same parents.
Right. Yeah. And my brother and I are very, very different. I mean, in some ways we are very much alike, but in pretty big ways, we are very, very different.
What if generational trauma, or even just generational, I don't know, I don't have the right word for it, but what if the things that happened in our collective families, they carry with us? So I have had, I've had some generational trauma, but I've also had some generational privilege. What if those things carry with us? Then the family we're born into, in what circumstance, but then also how we're raised by that family, and then the traumas that happen to us, and then how our brain responds to it, and whether we get caught in a loop in our brain. Because I've definitely gotten caught in a loop on the fear of abandonment. I feel I'm working on negating that. So right now, as I'm saying this is my fear, I'm also negating it at the same time. But
Right.
my fear of abandonment is a loop that has gotten stronger because I've believed it. So
Right.
all of these things play into it. If I had rejected that at some point, it wouldn't be so strong. The fact of the matter is, a lot of my fear of abandonment is because of my parents and their choices. Not that they did that out of intention or anything like that.
Right. Well,
But
my dad maybe did, but yeah.
how do we as adults take charge of that? Because I have my sister's kids, and neither of their fathers have been actively present in their lives. And that fucking sucks, Raquel. That sucks for you. It sucks for them. It actually sucks for the stupid fathers because they have missed so much beauty. So much beauty. But it really sucks for the children because, yes, it's building this pattern of doubt. If my own father isn't there for me, he's my father, for God's sake. If my own father isn't here, how do I trust anyone? How do I trust that anyone truly loves me?
Ding, 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 ding.
Fuck.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yep.
I'm
There you
sorry.
go.
And
Thank you.
2 of my children have that same. And no matter what I try to do to repair that, to help them, I'm only one human.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with me and my brother. I mean, my mom loves us both so very much.
It's a core wound, though, isn't it?
It is. It is, for sure. Yeah. Has that fear or that father wound fed lots of other fears? Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Have I allowed myself to be held back by fear because of the effect of my lack of relationship with my father? Probably. Is that the only cause? Maybe not. I don't think so.
I have a radical thought.
Okay.
Could you or my niece or my nephew who have this father wound, could you re-father yourself? Because I've worked on reparenting, remothering myself. Can you re-father yourself? Is that a possibility? Does that exist?
Probably, because like you talk about reparenting yourself, and that's something that I've been working through specifically the last year or two specifically. And yeah, I think it is very possible to reparent yourself. I don't know if it's specific to, or if it can be specific to the father part of that.
Why not? Listen here for a second.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I'm just saying that I don't have that knowledge. Maybe it is out there.
Let me ask you this, little Raquel.
Okay.
Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What would you want from a father right now, right here today?
Love, acceptance, support.
So love, acceptance, support. What would it look like coming from you to yourself? What could you give yourself in a fatherly way that would show that? What would a father do to show Raquel that he loved her?
Hugs, support.
He would hug her.
Advice.
He would kiss her on the forehead.
Yeah.
He would give her advice. What kind of advice would he give her? He'd tell her not to date that fucker because he's not good enough for his daughter. Right? He would.
Yeah.
He would say, no.
I could have used some of that. Probably give me a good nudge when I need it.
I made you cry. I am a...
No, it's okay. Look, I think everybody who listens already knows that I'm the crier in the group. So literally a good stiff breeze and I'm going to start crying. So it's fine. It's totally cool.
Well, this whole thought process, this is what I have been trying to do instead of dating right now. I'm trying to give myself what it is I imagine that this partner is going to give me. whatever
Yes.
that means. For example, like if I think, oh, it would be really fun to go on an ice cream date, I'm taking myself to get whatever kind of freaking ice cream I want to have.
I love that.
Or if I think I'd really like one of my fantasy dates, this is going to sound so lame to all of you guys, but I just want to lay in bed with pillows and put on my little reading glasses and snuggle up next to someone and read a book. Like that's my fantasy. That's how wild it gets around here, right? And trust me, I got some better fantasies, but that one in particular, I can do that. I can make my bed all cozy. I bought myself a really nice snuggly pillow the other day because I really had these like limp pillows. And I thought, why am I not making that area where I want to put my glasses on and read? Why am I not making it cozy for me first?
There you go.
That's what I'm thinking, where I'm trying to create this with my potential suitor myself.
Yeah.
Could you not do something similar? What would my ideal father do for me right now?
Yeah.
And then do that. Take care of Raquel.
You know what I should do? This is gonna be like, duh, of course, Raquel. Which, yeah, I know, but this is occurring to me right now because we've talked about journaling a lot. What I've seen before is where people will journal, where they do part of the page is the quote unquote voice of their guide or who their parent or whoever, what they want them to say. And then the other part of the page is them saying, so you have like this running dialogue.
I have not seen that before.
I should do that when I'm having these moments like this, where I'm like, oh, I would like to have a father figure advise me in this situation. I could do an imagined version of that.
Yeah.
In my journal.
Powerful.
I should give that a shot.
Whew. Well, you said we wouldn't have much to talking about fear today.
Well, that was fear talking.
Comes back to that damn fear talking.
Stupid fear. Blah.
Any final thoughts?
Fear is a bastard, man. Fear is just, it's huge. But we don't have to let it run the show.
Hey, well, all the titles said how to overcome it, why you should diffuse it, fear is an illusion, troubled by fear, just change your channel, how to fight fear, fear is a liar, secret to kill fear. Nobody likes it.
Nobody likes it. Nobody likes fear. Nobody wants to be friends with fear.
Oh, but maybe you just said the whole thing. Maybe we need to befriend our fear. You're a poet.
I am. I'm so smart.
That's what your father would say to you. He would tell you,
that's true.
Raquel, you're intelligent. You come up with really great ideas. You're so smart. And look the way you put these thoughts together and come up with such an eloquent way of saying it. That's what your father would say to you.
Oh, that would be nice. That's awesome. Thanks for telling me what my father would say to me, Jennifer.
I've never been a father.
So what about you? Any last words from you on fear?
I don't want to make decisions based on fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my biggest fear is in the dating world. So I'm going to do what I'm doing. I'm going to practice being authentic to myself and trusting myself. But then the other thing that I'm going to do is if the situation arises, I am going to take a chance and see what happens. I'm not going to let fear hold me back.
Good.
Right now, I feel very convicted in that idea.
There you go. But you know what? It's okay if that wavers a little bit here and there. It's fine. You're human. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. And I'm not going to let fear stop me from getting back out there and trying to get some more clients. And whatever other crap fear is holding me back about. I'm sure there's a lot of shit fear is trying to hold me back from.
To fear is to be human.
People who say they don't fear things at all kind of worry me. A certain amount of fear in life is healthy.
For sure.
I think if you don't have any fear, that might be one of the criteria for psychopath.
And what a great note to end it on. Bye, Raquel.
Bye, Jennifer.
Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.